Today on The People Business, joining me is newly announced Kent State wrestling head coach, Josh Moore. Josh has excelled in the wrestling community and has really stood out by building authentic relationships and really embracing adversity and getting out of his comfort zone as he has approached wrestling and grown within the sport. I'm excited to have him on today to help share his story, which is really amazing, of how he got to where he is. And we're going to talk about adversity, we're going to talk about relationships, and we're going to talk about using those to move yourself forward in your life. So Josh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's get into it. How did you decide, through your, because you had this illustrious wrestling career at Penn State, NCAA finalist, two-time All-American, but what made you to decide that you wanted to become a wrestling coach?
It's a great question, because honestly, I don't think it was till maybe later in my college career that I really started thinking about coaching, and it was, you know, a really, I guess, tough decision trying to figure out when you're 22, 23 what you want to do for a career and what you enjoy doing and what you can see yourself doing for the next 30 or 35 years. And when I look back, I think the ultimate decision was just being able to stay involved in a sport that had given not only me but my twin brother so much and had taught us so much about life and adversity and about hard work and all the great things that the sport of wrestling can instill in a young man. And so after graduating, it was, you know, really thinking about what I wanted to do, and I had a few different options with coaching, staying at Penn State, maybe continuing to train, going back to grad school. But the opportunity came about actually from my twin brother. He was at a coaches convention, and he was hanging out and was connecting with coaches and connected with Coach Anderson at Kent State. And it was kind of interesting. My brother called me afterwards and said, yeah, you know, Kent is going to be hiring an assistant coach. You should apply. I just talked to the head coach at this coaches convention, and they're going to be looking for someone. And you know, we seem to get along pretty well, and I think it'd be a good opportunity for you. So that's kind of how my first opportunity to get into the coaching world began. Just a relationship that my brother, you know, built and was introduced to, and you know, it ended up being a great one.
That's really cool. So your brother, who is your twin, Scott, right? He is at a coaching clinic convention, and he comes across Coach Jimmy Andrasey, right? Yep. And through that, it opens the door for you, which is really interesting. Yeah. So that was your first opportunity then?
Yeah, as my first full-time opportunity to be a coach.
Right.
Yeah, my other opportunity was to stay at Penn State to train and help out with the club, and I had a strong interest in law enforcement and had taken the state police test a few times, but this particular opportunity came around, and my brother, he went to Virginia his senior year, so he got hired by UVA as an assistant coach.
Okay.
And, you know, just was excited about staying involved in the sport and coaching, and, you know, we've talked quite often, and he's like, you know, it'd be a great opportunity for you to continue coaching. And so, you know, went through the process and loved the location, loved the school, somewhat close to my mom and my dad and family, and ended up being the perfect fit.
That's interesting. So you go right in, and your college career ends, and you go right into coaching, and you're at Kent State. Now, a lot of coaches, because we see a lot of, I think it's easy because that's all, you know, what else did you really know, right? I mean, when you are an NCAA finalist, you're a two-time All-American, you pretty much have to sleep, eat, live wrestling 24/7 for the most part, right? You know,
Yeah.
and you do that. Now, you also said that you had some interest in law enforcement. What inspired you to, you think, go the wrestling route instead of law enforcement?
It's a good question. You know, at the time, I guess I thought that the sport that I loved, I wanted to stay involved.
You wanted
with
to
it.
stay
in. And at that point too, I was still competing internationally and still kind of, you know, as a young wrestler, you know, growing up and through high school and college, everybody talks about, you're going to try out for the Olympics. Do you think you can make the Olympic team? So, you know, after having a pretty good career at Penn State, I thought, well, maybe there's a chance if I keep training that, you know, that I could get to that pinnacle of wrestling and make the Olympic team. So I was continuing to chase my own journey of wrestling internationally, but then also on the other side, helping others chase their journeys of becoming, you know, NCAA qualifiers and national champs, and all while kind of learning along the way how to coach and how to interact and how to just how to relate to people and build relationships and give back. So it was kind of the best of all three worlds, and just an opportunity that partially too was, you know, do I want to go to work full time and in law enforcement, which is, you know, not, you know, a little bit dangerous and challenging and has its own things going on, or do I want to do something that I really love to do and have a passion for? And at that point, it was wrestling, and I was given that opportunity, and again, it turned out to be a great one.
So you go and you join Kent State, and you guys had some pretty amazing success for a program, you know, that hadn't had a lot of success prior to you coming in, right?
Correct. Yeah, it had been 20-ish years since they had an All-American. They had some good teams, some good individuals, but nothing to the extent of what, you know, Northeast Ohio, the products should be, I guess, executing and putting on the mat. So it was a little bit of a down period, and it was a perfect opportunity with the new coach coming in the year before. So Jimmy came in the year before, so it was kind of a fresh face, new perspective, you know, just a different time to re-engage and to do different things. And we had, the first year, it was more of a feeling out, trying to figure out what kids were there for the right reasons and what kids were just there to be on the team. And, you know, after a few years, we were qualifying more guys for nationals, and then finally, in 2009, we had our first set of All-Americans, and that kind of launched a really, really great 6-7 years of streaks of All-Americans and throwing a national champ and a couple MAC titles, and the program was really at its peak during those times.
I shouldn't say that the program hadn't had success, because it had success prior to you coming in. But what I meant was a new level, right? And that's when you had got there as an assistant. What you helped bring was, you know, a different level, a level that you had experienced as a competitor yourself, right? Where, you know, you're wrestling, you know, you're in the NCAA finals, you're a two-time All-American. Now Kent State is experiencing All-Americans and national champions themselves. You know, and being the MAC champion. You guys were MAC champions as well, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
So how long did you spend at Kent?
I spent 11 years.
11 years, okay.
At Kent. Yep. Yeah.
So you take 11 years at Kent, and then that, I imagine, did that provide opportunities for you?
Oh, it provided a lot of opportunities, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the neat thing about at Kent at the time, it was we had 2 full-time coaches, so it allowed me to really be involved in every part of building a wrestling program, and a lot of learning. You know, as a young adult that just graduated from college, I knew wrestling, I knew training, but I didn't really have a great understanding of recruiting and building an alumni base, and even, putting on events and just all the small things that people don't really talk about and think about when building a program. So I was given that opportunity to really dig in and learn and do on the job, and something that I can't take for granted, just all the opportunities there. And then also went to grad school and got my master's, and then after having a lot of success there, and my wrestlers having success, but as a coach, it was just great to see them be successful, and then it started really opening up doors for other opportunities, and interviewing for head coach positions at other schools, and which going through those processes and talking with different people at different schools, you really learn about yourself and about what they're looking for and about different philosophies and a different way to think about things, being a head coach compared to being an assistant coach.
So you got to see your brother become a head coach. Mm-hmm. Did that also somewhat inspire you and motivate you to want to get to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. He, watching him go from an assistant coach at Virginia, mm-hmm. within 3 or 4 years he was the associate head coach, and then he kind of took a step back when they had their first child, and his wife was from up near Lock Haven in Bellefonte, and they decided to just take a leap of faith and move back home, and he took a coaching position at Lock Haven as basically a volunteer coach. So he went from being an associate head coach at a ACC school, pretty good position, to being a volunteer coach, and really kind of bet on himself. And if you talk to him, he would just say he used his past experiences and his work ethic, and he built, was able to build Lock Haven up in a couple years, just being a volunteer coach, and then he moved up to an assistant coach, and then they eventually had an opening, and he was well prepared and well connected, and had put the time in, and was given that opportunity, and had really made the most of it to this point.
It's really interesting because you had said something to me that I took a note on earlier. You had said that you were studying other coaches. You were learning what other head coaches were doing. And if knowing you, you were taking notes. You were kind of building and saying, okay, I like this. I want to take something from this coach. Mm-hmm. And you were putting together kind of your philosophy. Mm-hmm. So when you became a head coach, you had your, what you wanted to do and how you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Now, how important was the ability, or in investing, should I say, the time and energy in building relationships with people in the community that helped you get your first head coaching job?
It was crucial.
Yeah.
It was crucial. Just my time at Kent and connecting with a lot of the alums, and really having a deep connection with the guys on the team as well. Just being an assistant coach, you get the opportunity to learn how kids are motivated, to see how they click. So that was the first part of building that relationship as a coach with the student athletes. And then when the opportunity to become the head coach at Cleveland State came about, really just looking at the people I've connected with and seeing how, really how their influence on me could help me not only get the position, but get the position and to do it extremely well, and to kind of bring the things that they taught me to my own program. And as a first-time head coach, it's very challenging, overwhelming, a lot of things you thought you knew that you maybe didn't know. So being able to reach out to some of those mentors and some of these alums and some of these people that had been part of my wrestling journey, mm-hmm. was crucial to get their feedback and to kind of really build my own philosophy of how important it is to have those connections. And the biggest thing with with wrestling or any sport in life is being consistent. So I think anybody can make one phone call or put a guy through one good practice, but it's the consistency of anything that can make you be successful. So learning to be consistent with relationships and staying in contact with those mentors and those coaches, that high school coaches and the wrestlers that I've coached, is I think the most valuable part of what I learned.
I don't think there is, in fact, I know there's not. First off, you're leading a college Division I program. That's a business, true?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a business, right? You win, you lose, right? Your financials matter. Everything matters. It's a business, and there's really no difference between the consistency you need, whether you're out in the workforce, right? You're in corporate America, or you're leading a Division I program. It's that consistency. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's having a plan and being consistent with it, and knowing what your plan is and what needs to be done, and done on a daily basis.
Yeah, it can't just be once a week.
Yeah,
right.
I guess it's what people call the process. Not really thinking so much about the outcome, but just stacking up those days and believing and having faith in the process, and knowing where that could take you, and not only knowing, but seeing others who came before you buy into that process and belief system, and seeing them have success was crucial. And that, I guess, rewinding a little bit to when I came to Kent, I think that's, as an assistant coach, that's kind of what I knew was, hey, this is what I was able to do and what others at Penn State were able to do to get to that next level. And here is what I believe will work, and raising not only the level of expectation, but that level of focus, intensity, and then really the consistent effort that helped, I think, develop the wrestlers that we did at Kent.
Yeah, you must have a standard. There has to be a standard. Are you a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? You grew up in Franklin. You went to Franklin High School in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Are you a Steelers fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So Mike Tomlin says the standard is the standard, right? What's that mean? It means like this is our standard, and we must continue to meet the standard. And it's really no different with what you're doing, right? This is our standard. This is how we practice. This is how we train. This is how we work in the community, right? This is how we build relationships. You're creating a standard, which is a culture, would you say? That's kind of one of the same?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the culture.
That's the culture. It's the standard. And you saw and you watched and you said, what are other standards? And what was my standard? And what are the standards that we want? And then you turned it into your own, right? So you get the head coaching job. The door opens at Cleveland State. How does that happen? How do you get the job at Cleveland State?
Well, I was there as an assistant coach for a few years, and
so you leave Kent.
I left Kent, yeah.
Okay.
As I went to Cleveland State as an assistant coach.
Okay.
And, I mean, just a change, being in a place for 11 years and then going to a new place. It was, definitely a sort of a challenge and an opportunity, and really looking back, just got me out of my comfort zone of doing the same thing every day, and kind of working with the same group of people. And so really, to me, it just broadened my horizon and helped me get connected with so many more people. So at the time, we had a change in leadership in the athletic director position, and a lot of times when that happens at universities, the new person comes in and they evaluate programs, and they want to hire their own people.
Sure, always happens, whether it's in business or an athletic department. Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, so that no different.
Yeah.
There's I think the AD came in and there's 3 or 4 coaching changes that he wanted to see, and wrestling was one of those. And as an assistant coach there, and with my experience at Kent, I mean, I felt like I was the right guy for the job, and met with it was Mike Thomas was the AD at the time, and met with him multiple times, and the thing was, they weren't just going to offer it to me. They said, hey, you're going to have to apply and go through the process. And at the time, it's hard to understand. Hey, I've been here. I understand, know what's going on.
Yeah, I got the relationships, right? You
yeah,
know.
I felt like, but this is my job. And, basically kind of some advice he said was, well, then act like it's your job and take charge and, say you're, the interim head coach, and, you still have to go through the process. And, that process too of interviewing and, connecting with more of the alums, it helped me again better myself and connected me more. Instead of just saying, hey, here's the job, go run with it, they made me work for it. And the thing was, when I was offered the job, it felt better that I earned it over whoever else applied, because I'm sure there was a decent amount of people applying for the job that could have done a really, really good job as well. And it made me grateful that I went through the process and earned a job. So it was but yeah, some stressful times, not knowing what was going to happen with the position.
Sure.
And, having a family and kind of thinking, okay, well, if this does not work out, then where does my career go in the sport of wrestling? But being given that opportunity to be a first-time head coach and to really, I guess, put things in perspective for me and really gave me an extra sense of motivation and energy to make a difference and to change the trajectory of the program, but also to have a bigger impact on the kids on the team. As an assistant coach, it's more, hey, you're hands-on, you're training guys, you're doing stuff, but as a head coach, I feel like you can really change the game long-term.
You said something that the AD at the time gave you some advice, and he said, act like the person you want to be. That's pretty powerful, because that, all of a sudden, it's like, how do I do that? Well, I start doing it, right?
Let's do it, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now you have the motivation. Now you're, okay, I understand that, right? And now you go out and you do it, right? And you take that action. And I imagine, though, that took some getting out of the comfort zone also, to act like the person, act like the head coach. You want to be a head coach? Act like it. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you got to start doing more, right? Things that maybe you're not used to doing yet. How did you get yourself to do those things that maybe you were a little nervous to do? Or maybe you needed some courage? Like, how did you get yourself to take that action?
That's a good question. I think just by, again, reaching out to my brother who's been a head coach and other coaches and kind of, asking for advice. And it's funny that as a coach, you almost need to be coached by some of the people that you're connected with and you can trust and have relationships with. And, asking for the honest truth is like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking, or I have no idea what I'm doing here. Can you help me out? And so, yeah, really seeing what my brother was building, seeing what, Penn State was building where I went to school. So just really just looking at what other people are doing and saying, hey, how would that fit into my philosophy and my culture, and what can I take from there that makes sense at Cleveland State? And when I was kind of going through the interviewing process, another thing that Mike Thomas kind of said to me was, being the head coach, you have to get out in the community. You have to be willing to get in front of people. You have to, get out of the office and make those connections. And do you think that you can do this? And do you think you have the personality? And honestly, 8 years ago, I was probably on the border. I thought I could, but I've really never done it before. So to me, it was like, well, he's right. It's not, it's not, you just can't hide in the room and train guys. You're going to be asked to do press conferences and interviews and all this stuff. And I think nobody is 100% confident and feels great about that right away. But with anything, practice and put in that situation and given that opportunity as a wrestler, you find a way. and you work on it and you practice on it, and to this day, still something that I consider myself not great at, but continuing to work at it. And that was some great advice and some great mindset of a guy that Mike Thomas was the AD at Illinois, so he was coming from a big-time school, so he understood development of coaches and what a head coach should be, and he passed that on to me.
Yeah, all of a sudden you realize that you're in the people business. Like, that's what you are in. Like, you're not in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Now you're in the people business. You're the head coach. You need to build the relationships with the community, right? You need to pick the brains of mentors, of people. You got to have, enough courage to reach out to people maybe you haven't met before, and say, hey, I'd love to grab coffee and pick your brain, right? Which, those are things you're excellent at now. But going back then, when you hadn't maybe done that before, again, you took the step right outside that comfort zone. You probably weren't comfortable doing all those things, right? So we'll get into that a little bit more later, but fast forward now, you've had some success. You're at Cleveland State, you get the job, right? How long, and you stayed, how long at Cleveland State?
I was the head coach for 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
And for those who are watching who did not know this, Cleveland State then this past year decides to completely out of the blue discontinue men's wrestling, right? And now all of a sudden you've had success, right? I think you had the #1 team grade point average in the United States, first or second, right?
Yeah.
Your wrestlers, you're doing so much with almost no scholarship money, right? You're making mountains out of molehills, right? You're making magic happen. You're doing great things, and all of a sudden, here we go. The program gets cut, and here you are, 7 years in. What was that experience like for you to say, what the hell am I going to do? How am I going to take care of my family? And how am I going to take care of my wrestlers who I love? Like, walk me through that.
Definitely a very emotional, challenging kind of, oh crap, like, yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, just a lot of different areas, not only for me personally, but for the 35 young men on my team, and the alumni, and just the program itself, and for the sport of wrestling.
Right.
When you look at wrestling in Northeast Ohio, it's a powerful, popular sport. So the decision didn't make sense to me at all. So at first it was trying to find answers.
Right.
Why wrestling? Why us? So at first I think it was a little bit of I guess trying to find answers and understanding the situation so I could communicate that with the guys on my team or my wife or whoever.
They got questions. Everybody's got questions, and they're coming to you.
Yeah, they're all coming to me, exactly, because I'm the coach, so they feel comfortable coming to me and asking me. And I honestly wasn't able to find too many answers, so which was disheartening and didn't make a whole lot of sense. So my first reaction was, okay, well, I mean, now it's time to step up, and in a few different ways, like step up for the guys on my team. So we had a team meeting with the guys and kind of say, hey, nothing changes with you guys. I mean, we're the middle of January. We have 2 months left in the season. So nothing changes. We're going to keep digging in and doing great things on the mat and in the classroom. And then the other part of me was, okay, who can I rally, and who do I need to talk to organize an effort to get this program back on the other end? Because knowing, being in that position, it wasn't necessarily in my best interest to fight this on my own, but rely and connect with the people who had been at Cleveland State for years and years and years,
right.
And also others who have been through this situation. So that was my initial thought and action. And once we had a group of people kind of working on the stuff on the back end, I really truly focused on our student athletes. And just honestly, again, it was another point in my life where I was a little extra motivated to make sure these kids stayed on course, did the right things, and mainly because I knew they were going to have or hopefully have other opportunities at other places.
Yes.
As long as they stayed the course and finished the semester grade-wise. And, you know, if they did well and during the season, then other colleges would want to pick them up. And honestly, myself and my assistant, Fred Garcia, and even Johnny DeJulius, and the group of people that we had surrounded these young men, and our academic advisor, and even our train. I mean, we had a tribe of people that were there for us when, to be quite honest, others at the university weren't.
Right.
You know, if they drop your program, that shows
you're dropped.
How they feel about you. So yeah, we really came together and probably did more for our student athletes than ever before.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity for us to really take care of them, do extra things, and just talk about things more than wrestling.
So you've got the program has now been announced. You're done, right? This is the last season. It's over with. This is, in the business world, the equivalent of a mass layoff. Your performance was great.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it just, there's people who make decisions that affect the business, that affect the program, that maybe they're looking at everything through a different lens. And we don't always know exactly what that lens is, right? So we're at that point now. Two questions for you. Number one, how do you keep morale of your team up? How do you keep the morale of your coaching staff up? And then the second question, actually it's three questions. The third question is, how did the relationships that you built within the community help support you during that time? So first off, how did you keep the morale of your team and your coaching staff up? And then how did the relationships in the community support you?
Yeah, the morale of the team, to me, was always pretty high. I mean, the guys that we brought in fit our culture.
But once it's announced that you're canceled, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, I guess the culture of our team was strong enough that it had honestly somewhat prepared us for something of this nature. Not, I mean, definitely a surprise, but our guys, and just their relationships amongst each other, they were able to support each other to a capacity that's beyond, honestly, a lot of what things I've never seen before.
So the brotherhood was so tight, so strong that they bonded. They said, all right, we're going to deal with this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, and I think in a situation like that, there could be a lot of animosity towards different groups and people going their own direction. Like, hey, I'm going to worry about myself.
Sure.
And the guys, honestly, like I said, they came together and were there for each other and supported each other. And sadly, they would go on other visits together, and a lot of them ended up, a couple guys here, a couple guys there. So they're honestly, they helped me and our coaching staff through the situation too.
Wow.
So we were really all there for each other, but days that maybe I was just like, oh man, this sucks. They just seeing their energy and certain individuals that just brought energy to, I mean, no matter what happened to them, they brought great energy. So I think it was a combination of the energy and the culture and them supporting each other, and then, us as coaches continuing to be positive. And really it was, hey, initially we're going to fight this. We got people working on this, like, just trust it. And then when it came to a certain point where it was like, yeah, we knew things weren't great. It was, hey, let's talk about how we can help you guys get to
that
another
next place.
And let's find you new opportunities, and you know, we'll always be your coaches and in your lives, but you're just gonna have to finish your career, you know, another place.
And that's hard because you've poured into these student athletes. They're like, they're like, sons, right? I mean, like, you spend more time a lot of times with them than you do sometimes your own family, right?
Yeah.
With supporting them and coaching them and encouraging them and working with them. And, here you are now. But you're also learning from them. It sounds to me like they supported you as well, to where maybe if they were not, they were all down and out, maybe that would have affected you a little bit different. So it goes to show that the culture that you guys had built together and how powerful it was is impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and you hear a lot of coaches and even business leaders talking about, the team and the team. And I think that term is used somewhat loosely, but in this situation, we were a team, and we were in it for the right reasons and in it for each other. And we took a pretty ugly situation and really made the most of it. And I mean, honestly, a great outcome for myself and for many of the guys that will be coming with me to Kent, and the opportunities these guys were given at other great schools. Just grateful that, using some of those relationships with the other coaches was kind of coming back to the question of getting phone calls from other coaches, whether it be someone at Gannon or Edinburgh or Clarion, and really they call me about these guys. I can honestly say, hey, this is a kid you want on your team. This is a guy that's going to raise the level, he's going to work hard, he's going to do the right things. And I could say that with 100% honesty because I know the type of kids these guys are and how they responded to this. And so, yeah, using those relationships to really help these guys get other opportunities. And the same thing goes for myself, using the relationships I built to help me get this job at Kent State.
So here you are now, you're at Cleveland State, the program, you're working tirelessly to help your teammate, your coaching staff, to help your wrestlers, figure out that their next step. You still got to figure out yours. How did the power of networking, planting those relationship seeds, watering them over the years, how did they help you land the position that you now have today as head coach at Kent State?
I think it just starts with being at Kent for 11 years and the relationships I built while I was there, but then the relationships that I continued to grow and cultivate when I left. It was a lot of the same individuals at Kent when I was there 10, 15 years ago. They had gone other places and ended up coming back to Kent in a higher position. So really building on those relationships and then kind of rekindling those as it came back around for me was great. But then the relationships I built with all of the alums, some of the kids I've coached, some of the guys that were involved in the program that graduated before I got there, and just for whatever reason, just when I would text or call or visit them, continuing to talk about just the program and not, I guess not just when I left Kent, not just wiping that and saying, well, I'm moving on, I'm never going to be back there. Just always in the back of my mind thought, Kent was really good to me. I met a lot of great people, and I always thought, well, there's a chance that I could go back there. And having those relationships with the alums and now the administrators and the current coach and a lot of other coaches that were there, I think played a critical role.
It's so important to continue to nourish those relationships, because a lot of times what we see is, oh, well, I don't work there anymore. And next thing you know, you don't talk to somebody for 5 years, right? Because what's in it for me, right? There's nothing. What's the point of continuing to? Why should I pick up the phone? They don't call me.
Yeah.
Why should I reach out to them? And next thing you know, a year goes by and 3 years go by, right? And relationships die if we don't continue to give energy to them. You know, I had read a book once, I think it was Darren Hardy, but he says, what percentage are you responsibility-wise in every relationship in your life? And most people answer it 50-50. No, you're 100%, because you can keep every relationship thriving by being proactive, right? And knowing your story, you know, you did that, right? That allowed you, that mindset of being relational and not transactional, has served you extremely well. But again, that takes to step out of your comfort zone, doesn't it?
Yeah, for the most part it does.
I mean, to do those things,
yeah.
and you know, and to meet new people, and to have introductions, and to always be networking. I mean, like, that's something that as a society that we are losing. That's what the data shows us. We're more tech savvy, right? We're using our phones more than ever before. You know, most like, there was a prom going on. We were out to dinner, and there's this prom going on, and these kids are all sitting at the table together, okay? And they're having dinner.
Yeah.
And instead of talking, they're actually
on their
texting
phones.
each other.
I can see that.
From like me to you.
Yeah.
Instead of having a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, point is this, is we're losing that in the world today. What do you do to encourage yourself, to push yourself, to continue to put yourself out there, for those who are listening who maybe struggle there? How do you push yourself to continue to do that?
For me, honestly, I love just going and being in different places and getting out. And in the wrestling community, it's really easy. If you go out to a camp or a tournament, those people have the same passion, have the same purpose to a certain extent. They love the sport, they're there. So talking with people amongst the wrestling world is pretty easy. You know, you're just, I feel like wrestling people connect pretty naturally.
Sure. But how about when they're not wrestling people?
That's a little more challenging, and I think that's a skill that everybody's continuing to work on. But yeah, finding points of interest or a connection point, whether it be, I have 3 sons, so whether it be, hey, I've, talking about my sons and the sports they play, talking about the trips that you take for wrestling, for baseball, vacations. But yeah, really finding different ways to communicate. But for me, doing better, allowing people to tell their story and trying to ask the right questions to get people to talk and to share maybe somewhat personal information or stories, and learning from those stories and finding those connection points. And it can be really challenging, and sometimes you don't click with a certain person or another person.
Sure.
But it's a skill that obviously that very well, and continuing to learn from you, honestly, and taking pointers, I think is important. And continue, no matter how old you are, how long you've been doing something, even being a wrestling coach for 20 years, I'm still learning and adapting and evolving as a person, as a coach, as a father. And I think that can be used in any industry. Don't settle. Don't allow yourself to be stale. Continue to evolve and better yourself.
Don't allow yourself to be stale. Continue to evolve. I think that sums it up perfectly, right? Because it's so easy to get complacent and get stale, especially, oh, I've made it to the top, or oh, we've already had success, or whatever it is, right? It's so easy to do that. So the relationships played a huge role, staying in contact with, Jimmy Andrasey, who was the coach at Kent prior to yourself, staying in contact with the administration, staying in contact with the community, former wrestlers. All those people played a huge role. So now here you are. You're the new coach. Let's talk a little bit about vision for the future. What is Josh Moore's vision for Kent State in the wrestling program moving forward?
Yeah, my vision is to really call on Northeast Ohio and all the wrestling connections and relationships I've built, and get people involved and let them know that you as the wrestling community need to, again, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your local community, and explore into really what we're calling the golden era and of the golden flashes. So it's really, we want to be out in the community. Not only me personally, I've done that a lot over the last 20 years, but my assistant coaches, my student athletes, who a lot of them will be from the Northeast Ohio community. So they're going to get back to not only their home community, but really in all these youth clubs and high school rooms, and just reconnect with people and to engage one of the best areas in the United States for wrestling, and to get them associated with our program, get them to learn about our program, get them excited about what we're doing, and to be really part of our journey and part of our experience that I truly believe that everybody is going to love once they see it, once they are involved. And it's, to me, nothing makes me happier than to show up on match day and just to see the stands full of proud, loyal wrestling fans. And they don't always have to, have Kent State being their favorite program. They maybe love Ohio State or love Penn State, but just out supporting the sport that hopefully they were given an opportunity to do, and they were, they saw that helped change their lives and give back to our young men at Kent.
That is great, right? And that's the vision in getting, everybody involved, right? Creating, this thing that's bigger than the sport of wrestling, right? Building those relationships. But how about the people who say, like, well, I'll believe it when I see it? How are you going to get them to believe it?
My biggest sell as a coach has always been my student athletes. As a coach, my job is to prepare these guys for life after sport, but they have an opportunity to connect with the community and with these alums and with other coaches, and my job is the connection point, connecting our guys with Northeast Ohio. And I truly believe once that personal connection is made, then win or lose, people know what we're doing and why we're doing it, and they want to support the person and maybe not the result so much. And yeah, do we want to win? Absolutely. Does everybody want to win? Yes, but that can't be the only reason that we have a program. I mean, the main reason is these kids are going to be able to get an amazing degree at a great place, have an experience, and as coaches, our job is to challenge them, put them in opportunities to learn, connect, be successful, and then hopefully those connections lead to something more than just a great career on the mat, a great career off the mat, and keeping those student athletes involved with the program for 10, 20, 30 years to come, and continuing to push out leaders in Northeast Ohio that will continue growing the sport, giving back to a program that helped give them so much, and sharing their knowledge and expertise with anybody they come in contact with.
It sounds like the Northeast Ohio community is going to be very proud of what they see, not just on the mat, but from the type of person that you are producing at the end of the day, and you're helping to impact and put out into the world, because let's be honest, it's much bigger than wrestling, right? So you should. So everyone in Northeast Ohio should be ready to see a lot more visibility in things coming from you and your program.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah.
Just being out there, being seen, being heard, sharing a consistent vision of what we're doing as a team, and I guess the expectation that we're setting for these guys, and how they communicate with the coaches they come in contact with the youth wrestlers, middle school wrestlers, and how they interact, and teaching them. I mean, they're going to have to learn, and that's where, as coaches, that's part of our job, is to help them learn how to interact with these coaches and how to build relationships with could possibly be their future boss at certain places. So you can never downplay the importance of making that one connection that could turn out to be a lifelong connection of a journey that you never thought would come about if you didn't make that phone call or show up to this location on Saturday morning. So just trying really excited to see where it goes. I know we want to do our part. We're not asking for Northeast Ohio to come support us and us just stay at the MAC Center. We want our guys out, and, like you said, visible and interacting, and we really hope that Northeast Ohio reciprocates the effort, and they come to support our guys, what maybe is 5 or 6 times a year. It seems pretty simple. 5 or 6 times a year, you come down to the MAC Center and you invite your buddies and you make an experience and you enjoy not only the wrestling, but just connecting with old friends and joking around, and almost like a reunion for the wrestling community. Or even, anybody's welcome. If you like, sporting events, doesn't have to be wrestling, but if you need a night out, if you need a date night, if whatever it is, we want to try to incorporate a lot of different themes, and just the main word we use is just energy. Yeah. And that energy is positive, it's fun, it's exciting, and we mentioned this before on one of our walks, but you think about when you're going to like an amusement park, you're just like excited to go. Yeah. We want people to feel like, hey, we get to go, we have this opportunity to go watch these young men from Northeast Ohio or the state of Ohio lay it on the line and give it their all for 7 minutes in front of thousands of people. The least we can do is show up to watch them for an hour and a half, and to show them that, hey, we're proud of you, but also we support wrestling, and wrestling needs to stay at all levels, but essentially, in Division I in Northeast Ohio, Kent is the last school remaining, and it's scary to think that, but it's also exciting to think that we can have a huge impact, and Northeast Ohio can also impact our program probably way more than we can impact the community. But the relationship is going to be huge.
Well, if I know anything about Northeast Ohio, growing up here and being part of this sport, is I know that they show out big when it comes to supporting wrestling, and if you build it, they will come. I promise you that. Yeah. So, I expect to see some exciting things coming down the road from the program. One more question before we go here today. Here we are. Let's fast forward 20 years, 30 years, whatever it looks like. Josh Moore is now retiring. How do you want your former wrestlers? How do you want your former coaches who worked with you, your former wrestlers who wrestled for you, the people in the community who interacted with you and supported you. How do you want them to describe Josh Moore? One word.
Whew, one word.
One word.
Caring.
Caring.
Caring. Yeah, just as a coach, one of the most important things your student athletes can feel is just being cared for.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's not always easy. Sometimes these guys make it hard, but just really, yeah, just being there for them and offering your ear or just some time to listen and to help.
Theodore Roosevelt once said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And man, if you don't care, it doesn't really matter what else you do, right?
Yeah.
Great answer, man. All right. Josh, thanks for coming on The People Business.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great spending some time with you today on Tuesday morning. It's going to be a great day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up next on The People Business, we will have Brian Blashad with Famous Supply. He'll be joining us on the next episode to talk about 4 generations of customer service with his company, Famous Supply. So excited to have Brian on. Thank you for watching The People Business today. Until next time.